Okay, so this next group of images that we're going to be looking at is addressing craft as fine art. You will see the difference. Craft is typically an art form in which the artist is making things to be used. So utensils, furniture, clothing, tapestry, anything that could be a quilt. Versus fine art. Fine art is usually things that are just put on the wall to be looked at. Paintings, photography, prints. This artisan here, Wedgwood, apotheosis of Homer vase, he did two different sets of ceramic pieces. This one was handmade, and he considered this fine art because it was to be set up and viewed. Then he did another series, which we'll see here in a minute, of utilitarian dishes that the common person could put on their table when they had guests coming to visit. So this is Wedgwood's queenware kitchenware done in 1850. Basically, this is the second set that he used a plant to manufacture. As you can see, it is not as decorative. It doesn't have the Greek mythology decorating the sides of it with the beautiful blue background. This was just your he called it useful ware, okay, or versus the ornamental ware, which was the first slide. And so we see here, this is a perfect example of the difference between art and craft. Even though the first one was a vase and you might use it to put flowers in, which you never would, that would have been considered more of an art form, where this is being used and putting on the table would be considered craft. This is the piece that inspired Wedgwood's The Homer Vase. As you can see, you have people dancing just like he kind of did in that first image that we looked at. And this was done in 510 BCE. So of course this is much older and inspired it. And even the two-handle design, it would have stored oil or honey. He wanted to produce, so he used this as a reference to produce that first image that we saw to inspire beauty, a thing of beauty. So I have several words I will define as I talk about this teapot. The first is ceramics. Ceramics is when an artist uses clay to make either functional pieces or sometimes sculpture. This is a slab piece, which is a construction that is rolled flat out like a pie crust and then shaped by hand. In the Japanese ceremony, the tea bowl has a very special place. Each tea bowl was shaped for the participants' hands to fit perfectly. The tea bowl would have been placed in the early 17th century, 6 ancient kilns. It would have taken about 7 days for them to fire in a wood kiln. Kilns are the big ovens that take all the moisture out of the clay and make it hard enough to hold water. Glazing is the second process in which you put a glass substance to seal it off so mold doesn't grow into it. Of course, ceramics is probably one of my favorites. That's what I've been working on of recent. And I have done a wood-fired kiln. You dig a hole into the ground and you put the pieces in and you stoke it for about 7 days. And I've done it downtown Dallas. So this piece here, X Neck 1990, has been fired by a wood firing. The artist resigns himself to accidental effects that result from the heat of 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit over the course of 7 days of firing. Before they are dry, he gouges them, draws on them with various tools, and drags them through a giant sweeping forms, as you can see with the X. The X is the focus of the piece. The X is a standard signature for those that cannot write. So in this piece, the jar is done by a Native American, and Native Americans are very well known for their coiling. Okay, it is basically when when the clay is rolled up into long snake-like forms and then rolled into the shape and then smoothed out. And I have a video and you'll see how this is done because it's really kind of cool. And if you've ever taken any kind of art class, typically you will do a coil pot. Okay, in this example, the red clay pot was smoothed to an extreme smooth sheen. Then a design was painted onto it with a liquid clay slip. The pot was smoothed in dung partway through the firing, which results in the smoky blacken of the clay. Here is an example of throwing. So basically throwing, everyone thinks it's so funny someone calls it throwing because you're not actually throwing anything onto a wall. You put a lump of clay onto a potter's wheel and it's going in a circle. And as it goes into a circle, you form it into, a bowl or glass or whatever it is that you're wanting to form it into. And unfortunately, I have tried and tried to throw, and I am not very good at it. There's something about that circle that I get mesmerized and can't focus on. But if you do take a ceramics class, they'll typically will teach you how to throw, and if you practice, you get better and better. So this piece has been thrown, and it definitely blurs the line between craft and art because there's no way you can use this piece. The opening at the very top is way too small. Maybe you could put one flower into it, but probably not. This is definitely just done to be a sculpture. And to me, it looks like some kind of bulb, a flower bulb or an onion. And I think the artist, well, it says here, onion Philly. So she has created it to be an onion inspired, and I believe the glaze that she's developed too is very soft, so it's very smooth, and so that's why she calls it a Philly, because you want to go touch it and feel the glaze because it's very different. Again, this artist is blurring the line between art and craft because it is a vase. You could feasibly use it, the blue and black and yellow, but then she goes ahead and she does a shadow that's put on the wall of the vase. So it's like, is this art? Is this meant to be used, or is this really just to be meant to look at? So, and I just love it. I love the idea of a shadow, an artist making the shadow. And then you also really do have the shadow, and the colors are just brilliant. The blue and then the kind of gold shadow, it's complementary in a way, and it just all works very nicely together. It's organic, but at the same time, you can tell it's been thrown. It's very controlled. An interesting idea. So traditionally, crafts have been very much associated with women's work. Think about it. Quilting, tapestry, even clay. Typically, it's dominated by women. In this work here, it's a ceramic tile mural, was commissioned by the city of Pasadena, California in 1990. It's a floral design erupting from the talus light background, celebrating Pasadena as a city of roses. So it's hard to see it, but it's just lots of different roses. And the tile, think about it, tile is also, it's ceramic. So it's been fired, it's got glaze on it, somebody can make it. So this was handmade and put together as a mural.